Hello and welcome to FI Spotlight. I'm your host, Susan Choi. Today we're talking about coffee, Vietnamese coffee to be exact. Nguyen Coffee Supply started in 2018 with the goal to sell and champion Vietnamese specialty coffee to the US market. From its tireless advocacy of the Vietnamese robusta coffee bean to its pledges for diversity and inclusion in its business model, the company is disrupting the traditional coffee industry in a big way. Here now to share more insights is Sahra Nguyen, founder and CEO of Nguyen Coffee Supply. Sahra, welcome
Hi,
to the show.
Susan. Oh, thank you for having me, Susan. So happy to be here.
It is an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you. Sahra, let's start off by having you talk about why now? Why is now the time you think that the time is right to promote Vietnamese coffee to the American coffee market?
Yeah, this year we've had quite a breakout year in retail where we're now in over 2,000 stores. And so it's kind of like one of those like overnight successes that happened. It took 5+ years, right? So when I think about like why now? Well, first, I think why now is actually long overdue. Like the commitment to really investing in Vietnamese coffee farmers and just robusta grown communities worldwide is long overdue. The conversation of like, how do we elevate the value of coffee so that everyone in the values chain can elevate their livelihoods is long overdue, right? So we've really been championing this mission to bring economic advancement to the robusta grown community, particularly starting with my parents' home country, Vietnam, for a very long time. And now when we think about why now that today in 2024, Vietnamese coffee, robusta is rising, right? Vietnamese coffee is trendy, it's buzzing. And I think the why now there is, one, there is this macro trend of excitement for engaging with global flavors and global cultures through food and beverage. So that's very exciting for us. The other why now of like, why is everyone really starting to turn the tide with us is because robust investing in coffee communities today is critical for the sustainability of coffee's future. Like when we think about how do we sustain coffee growing communities in the future, we can no longer deny robusta as a part of that solution, and we can no longer deny like all coffee growing regions as part of that conversation. And so a combination of like things for why now, which is the cultural exploration for global flavors, but also looking into real viable solutions for how to sustain the coffee industry into the future.
Let's talk about coffee overall. The price of coffee has been rising recently. Sahra, what impact does that have on the robusta bean, and what implications does that have for the overall coffee space?
Oh yeah. So if folks who are in the coffee industry may not have been reading that the price of robusta is at a 30-year high, right? And so it's grown like over 268% since 1994. And that's just the robusta C market. Now, Vietnamese robusta specifically in Vietnam is actually 24% above the international market. It's a combination of supply and demand dynamics, as well as like crop failure, climate change, et cetera, right? Now, for us, because we've like in addition to the global market rising, for us, the price of our robusta has actually increased about 275% over the last 5 years, not just because of the global market, but because we've actually been investing with our direct trade farm partners in improving the quality of the coffee, right? So we've asked them to do more things around hand picking when it's only red ripe 100%, using all natural biofertilizers, and then also transitioning from a natural processing method to a full wash processing method, which requires more water, electricity, and labor, right? So this has been our work over the last 5+ years to invest in quality coffee production, which has increased the cost of our coffee, right? And now overall, like big picture, like, well, in the immediate, like it's never fun to see your cogs go up. You have to really reimagine your P&L and how to build a sustainable business. But zooming out long term, like this is really a great thing for the coffee industry. If the price of conventional commercial coffee can rise, then that elevates the entire coffee industry globally, and then it also rises the price of premium specialty, right? The last thing I'll say here is over the last a couple of decades, there's been a huge investment in the specialty coffee industry, and specialty coffee as a segment, the price of that has really risen, but the C market, like commercial coffee, has not had the same opportunity, right? And so when we think about that, there's actually a huge segment of the global growing population that hasn't been able to advance their own livelihoods. So long term, it's a good thing. We really want to just support the future of coffee, not just from an agriculture perspective, but also from like a social and economic and culture perspective. Like, how can these coffee growing communities sustain? How can they be incentivized to continue growing? How can the younger generation of coffee farmers and coffee farming families be incentivized and motivated to enter the industry as well, so that we can continue the coffee future?
Let's get into Nguyen Coffee Supply. Sarah, you say on your website that your mission is to, quote, change the future of coffee through diversity, sustainability, and cultural integrity. Can you elaborate more on that? And how are you able to work towards this goal in all aspects of your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So prior to starting the company, I couldn't find real Vietnamese coffee beans anywhere in the US market, even though Vietnam is the second largest coffee producer in the world and also the #1 producer of Robusta coffee beans. Vietnam, as an origin and as a coffee industry, has been explicitly left out of the specialty coffee industry, right? So that's what I mean. That's what we mean when we talk about inclusion, including all coffee origins, including all coffee species, including Robusta in the conversation for advancement and elevation. When we talk about diversity, diversity in culture and in coffee origins, even in coffee species, the dominant coffee species in American coffee culture has been the Arabica bean, which we also import and support. But it's also like diversifying the stories and the coffee experience for more people to have different options. And then cultural integrity, the piece of that for us, what that means is, Vietnamese coffee is not just a bean. It's actually like a brand of its own. We can see we found Vietnamese coffee ice cream, Vietnamese coffee cakes, Vietnamese coffee candy, right? And so as this cultural phenomenon elevates, how do we think about including the producers of this culture in this transaction? And that comes into working with actual Vietnamese coffee producers, working with actual Vietnamese folks in the industry, so that we are not just benefiting off of the cultural cachet of Vietnam, but actually building with cultural integrity and with holistic communities in mind.
Absolutely. All right, Sarah, I want to get your insights as an experienced business owner. So you started in the business in 2018, and as you mentioned before, you have since grown, been on a successful path, distributing your product to thousands of stores, scoring deals with big name retailers, Target, Amazon, GoPuff, to name a few. What would you say to our audience, those of them who are in the CPG trade, who have, similar goals, who are working towards, these similar goals of getting these relationships with these big box retailers? I've heard from other experienced CPGers in the space that there can be missteps made by growing CPG companies to enter into these types of relationships too fast. What are your insights?
Yeah, a couple of things I'd love to share. So the first one is really focus on how you are bringing value to the set, to the category, and to consumers, right? Oftentimes, with, I think for myself or even with young entrepreneurs, it's a one-way conversation of like, this is what I love, and this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what like my family loves, right? But we really have to think about how do we have like a back and forth conversation with our community, with our customers, with our retail partners, to really focus on like, in addition to what you love and what you're passionate about, how you actually bring value to the category, to the retailer, and to consumers. And I say focus on that as part of your message as well. The other piece about retail expansion distribution is, this like general philosophy of going deep before you go wide, right? There are, real implications around financials and business economics when you think about launching in like 200 doors versus like 2,000 doors, right? Like, and I say before you enter into any arrangement or agreement, really model that out financially in terms of like, what does that really look like from a cash perspective for your inventory, but then also for sales and marketing to support the velocity on shelf, right? Because as many folks in distribution and retail know, getting on shelf is like really just like not even half the battle, I'd say. It's like once you're on there, how do you stay on there? By driving trial and driving velocity. And so make sure that you have a team in marketing and resource to support that is very critical. So yes, definitely being intentional, methodical about how you choose your distribution partners and how you choose to scale.
Wise words indeed from Sarah Nguyen, founder and CEO of Nguyen Coffee Supply. Sarah, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you so much, Susan.
And as always, you can check out all the great content that we've done by clicking on this playlist. Till next time, I'm Susan Choi. Take care.